Guys, morning, Tuesday, 6th of January. Look, fairly muted session on the Aussie market yesterday. XJO finished flat, futures finished flat. Offshore, we saw a bit of strength. FTSE up about 50 points, S&P also about 50 higher into the close. There were some pretty interesting structures underneath all that though. So local market, Aussie 200 yesterday. That market maker activity that we spoke about from the guardrails capped price nicely around 87.50. Obviously, this was the excerpt from Grok when we put it through. That US gap as well, on the other hand, also provided support. If you look at the history when the US gaps up, and we get a nice strong open here. Talk about that shortly. UK was a bit of an outlier, so got this complete collapse here on open, then a full reversal, and FTSE actually finished about 50 points higher. So that sequence is actually quite rare. We only get this a couple of times a year. And actually, the last time we saw this was through Liberation Day week last year, around April. Really interesting that we'll touch on is the next day moves. Okay, so when we saw this, we saw monster moves the next couple of days. So we'll have a look at that. Over in the US, that opening gap that we spoke about yesterday morning, said there was about a 95% historical occurrence of hitting 680-ish. It kind of did that and then a lot more. This is really interesting. This came up with that early fall on the UK last night. Almost, when you look at the data, looks at acts as a bit of an FU to the rest of the global markets when the UK falls with this setup. US spikes higher a decent percentage of the time. Looking forward today, Aussie 200, we've got a bit of potential upside just when comparing average XJO end of day moves to what we saw on the UK and the US yesterday, and likely weakness on the US market following these rallies overnight. So let's crack into it.